those of you who don't know me, I'm John Gadauskas, the priest in the Burnie Wynyard region, and I thank you as a family for inviting me to lead you in this celebration and farewell of Maria. So of course we offer our sympathy and love to all of Maria's family, of which there are many of you, but in particular to her children's and their partners. So of course to Anne, to Enie, to Robert and Dorothy, to Peter and Dan, to Michael and Raylene, to Helen and Rick, to Max and Sally, Tony and Deb, and David and Sharon. And we also acknowledge the grandchildren that are here, the great-grandchildren, and I understand there are 3 little great-great-grandchildren. So while they may not necessarily remember their great-great-grandmother, I'm sure the stories that are part of your family will be handed on to each of them. Can we begin with the traditional sign of the cross? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. One of the first things that we do in our Catholic tradition is we are reminded of our baptism, of our christening, and we're reminded of Maria's baptism a long time ago in the Netherlands. And there's a very simple prayer that I pray, and then sprinkle the coffin with holy water, reminding us of the life that we are promised through our baptism and the life we believe that Maria now shares in. But I pray this prayer first of all. My dear friends, in the waters of baptism, Maria died with Christ and rose with him to new life. May she now share with the Lord eternal glory. Meant to do that earlier. We acknowledge those people who are watching live stream wherever they are. They're obviously unable to be here with us, but they are certainly with us very much in spirit. So I'd like to invite David and Michael and then Nicole and Rebecca to come forward and share with us your eulogies. Thank you.
Squeeze in here. Thanks everyone for making the effort to be here, obviously. Mum obviously had a good innings, and it's only when you come to reflect on some of those things over the years, you get to appreciate, I suppose, some of the ups and downs that she had, and how grateful we are that she was part of our lives. Eulogy for Maria. Mum was born in The Hague, Holland, on the 6th of March 1928. She was the second of 5 children that her mum and dad, Ari and Dina, had. Mum is survived by a brother and sister who still live in Holland now, and many of you would recall or remember her brother Bill, our Uncle Bill, of course, who lived up the Calder for many years, and thank you for his children who are here today. Mum spoke fondly of her childhood and explained that she had lots of friends and used to obviously like to visit, and always said to me a few times, like, I had this friend and I wonder what she's doing now. So she did have some good friends growing up, and she attended a Montessori school which was based on hands-on learning. But as with a lot of places in Europe, the war came and things changed quite a bit. Mum was 12 when Holland became occupied by the Germans, and she would often recall how she stood on the side of the road when the tanks come in, and she likened it to a parade. It was just like a parade. She had no idea, I guess, what was coming. Things got worse in 1943 when her dad died of a massive heart attack at age 41. Mum was 15 and had to find work to help make ends meet for the family. She worked for a hairdresser. Mum looked after the 2 children that the hairdresser lady had while she was working. And Mum also found work at a local factory later on where she worked alongside her sisters. Mum recalled these years were pretty hard, cold, and she was often fairly hungry. She said that once they hit her dad's motorbike, the Germans used to come around and get all the metal so they could take it away and make weapons and whatever else. So they hid her dad's motorbike under the bed and then swapped it for a bag of potatoes. Thankfully, the war ended and Mum met a handsome young man, Andreas, in 1946. After a 2-year courtship, they were married in a Catholic church in December 1948. But then to have it officially recognised, they again said their vows at the local registry office in January 1949. Mum and Dad lived upstairs with Mum's mum, Dina, and not long after that they had their first 2 children. Anne came along in 1949 and then Eni in 1950. Mum had a very close relationship with her mum, but decided, along with Dad at the time of course, to embark on a huge adventure and migrate to Australia in 1951.
So 6 weeks it took on the boat trip to come from Holland to Australia. And Mum said that it was probably one of the best times of her life. No cooking, no washing. She reflects, it was kind of like a honeymoon for Dad and I because we'd never had one before that. She emphasised to Tony on one occasion with a bit of a twinkle in her eye that her and Dad really, really, really enjoyed that trip. But June 1951 saw them off the boat in Melbourne. They stayed with some friends, cousin of Dad, the Cernos, in a place called Seymour. They had to leave their belongings on the boat because they all ended up at the New South Wales immigration camp. Their belongings turned up to them again 3 months later. And it was early in 1952 that they decided to come to Tasmania. Friends, the Gillans, had invited them along. There's plenty of work in Tassie, they were told. The hydro is hiring people. Some of the first places that they lived in and around the Wynyard community was firstly, of course, with the Gillans until they found their own place. Then they rented a property out at Flowerdale. From there they moved to Whiteley's up on Cooper's Lane at Seabrook. They lived up on the top of the hill for a while at Seabrook, had another 2 children. Robert was born there, Peter, 1953, 1955. And then quite a bit more happened while they lived at Cooper's Lane because Dad, unfortunately, had a sledgehammer hit him on the leg, busted it, 9 months in plaster during that time. Anne comes running up to the house from the little creek that flowed down the back of Seabrook. Eanes fell in the creek. I think she's drowning. Mum, pregnant with Pete, ran as best she could down the hill, jumped into the creek, found Ian just by the tuft of her hair, scruffed her and threw her up onto the bank and then struggled herself to get out of the creek. Thankfully, they both got out. Mum often smiles as she recalls another story of about that same time, pregnant with Pete, Dad with his leg in plaster, that little white patch on the top of Pete's head. Maybe it had something to do with the conception and the plaster. Michael was born 1956. The same year they bought the old schoolhouse at Mount Hicks. In 1958 the family moved to Stennings Road. They'd sold the Mount Hicks home in order for preparations for a brand new house to be built in Hale Street. Max and Helen were born on the laundry floor at Stennings Road that same year, 1958.
Unfortunately, at the time, the builder of the new house at Hale Street was going bankrupt, and Mum wasn't really sure, or Dad of course, what to do, so they pretty much figured possession's 9/10 of the law and the house was pretty much built. So they packed up their belongings and with some help of theirs for some friends, went round to the house during the night. Doors are locked, of course, so they jimmied open a window and threw Rob in the window, got him in there, and then he went and unlocked the doors and they stayed there. And then Dad went to the bank and said, well, we're not moving, what are you going to do? So they stayed there for just under 60 years. Tony come along in 1964 and yours truly in 1969. Not long after that, Dad had a vasectomy. Tony and I were the only ones born in a hospital. Mum and Dad had many trips back to Holland, or many, two. 1975 they went on their own, and thanks to Bill and Janet, come and stayed at our place and looked after us while Mum and Dad were away. There was probably still a few kids at home at that stage. And then in 1977, 5 of us kids went with Mum and Dad for a trip to Holland. Mum and Dad also hosted many visitors from Holland over the years, and they all enjoyed their time here. Dad passed away, unfortunately, in April 2002, so Mum has survived him by 21 years. Mum obviously had the last 6 years up at Umina Park, aged care facility, and the family would like to extend their heartfelt thanks to all the care that she was afforded there, with the bus trips, activities, the care she was shown, especially over the last few weeks, was really terrific and appreciated. Thanks also to Dr. Keith MacArthur for his ongoing care. We'd now like to share a few memories that the family have told us of this beautiful and remarkable woman. Rob remembered as a child that all the kids would climb into bed with Mum on a on a Sunday morning. Dad was probably off at the bakehouse or whatever. And they would sing a few old Dutch songs. Here Komt the Iceman, which is a bit like Here Comes Mr. Whippy, Here Comes the Ice Cream Man. This one here I'm not so sure about. Daar is the moordenaar of your father, which sort of translates to there's the murderer of your father. I'm not really sure what sort of nursery rhyme that was back in the day, but Rob will explain that to you a bit later on. She'd also sing along, and the family would, to Elvis, Cliff Richard, Doris Day, whatever was popular at the time. Recently, Rob went to Umina and visited Mum.
She was up in a big room with the piano and all that going, and the music was in full swing, but Mum couldn't hear. Then a Doris Day song came on, Que sera, sera, and her face lit up. And she grabbed Rob's hand, and Rob said it was just like being back in bed 60 years ago. We all remember Mum cooking macaroni, and then us kids racing home the next day trying to be first to get the leftovers. She loved cooking pancakes, hundreds at a time, stacking them up. Meatballs with that funny gravy that was just not really good gravy. And eggs on a Friday, Helen remembers. Funny thing about eggs and Mum's accent. One day Mum went in with Wilson Brothers, down there, I reckon it was near, shiploads down there, and at the back was the grocery cart. And Mum went in and wanted to order some eggs. Well, the person on the counter on her own come back with an axe. She would say, X, and close. We all looked back fondly when Mum would take us on the train to Burnham. There used to be a free swimming pool at Hilda Parade, just along from where Fish Frenzy is now. It was always filled with salt water. Mum would also give us a bit of spending money if we were being good.
There was always a bucket of hot soapy water at the back door, ready for us to wash our feet when we got home from a day out. As we got older and found ourselves working, we'd use the bathroom, and the first thing Mum would do would chuck our dirty socks out the window because they stunk so bad. Get out. Helen remembers organising those hearing aids for Mum. You've all heard the hearing aid story out there. 3 different occasions Helen tried her best to get Mum to put these hearing aids through. They're my ears, she told her in the finish, and I'll do what I want with them. conversations with the other people that you meet at the park is just a real mind-blowing. She had a bit of a temper, of course, at times, with 9 kids running around her feet at different occasions, so the jug cord was her choice of weapons. You've got to be careful with the jug cord, you see, because if you fold it in half, you've got 2 plugs, and she could let one of them go, and that made it 6 foot long. It's never an easy task. Tony remembers hearing Wisey, Shane Wise, heading out the door flat out with mum with the jug cord behind him, yelling in Dutch and squealing like nothing else. Wisey yells out, "What's she saying, Tony?" And he says, "How should I know? Just keep running." Oh, yeah. Bag of marbles for a while. We have some fun with marbles. Many in here with marbles. Here we were at the back door there playing with our marbles, and there's an argument broke out. Mum comes storming down the steps, grabs Rob's bag of marbles, hurls them over into the paddock where Bassett's house is now, over the fence and gone. "Why mine?" he thought. Yeah, that was one way of sorting that argument out real quick. Riding to Burnie Day, eh? Riding to Burnie on a push bike all the way to Burnie Plumbing where Dad was working. Stopping at Doctor's Rocks for Mum to catch up because he was a bit quicker than Mother on the push bike, of course. And then they would travel with Dad with the car all the way to Devonport to deliver fire screens and have the evening out. Turn around and come all the way back later in the night. Stopping at Doctor's Rocks for Mum to catch up. She would have been at least 50 odd years of age at that time, and she was fairly fit for her age, well into her years. So Tony says, "Mum, she was just a remarkable lady. Because over a period of time, I worked it out, she was 6 years pregnant. Over 20 plus years. Never in all that time did she not have time for her kids. Taking them places, the beach, the pool, movies, on the train rides. Tony reflects on that, they were simple things, cheap things, because money was so tight. But those memories, they last for a lifetime. So here we are in the first 6 or 8 pews of this church here today. 9 children with partners, 31 grandchildren, say hi, 61 great-grandchildren, good on you girls and guys, awesome, and 3 great-greats that are out here today. She often reminisced about the decision that she and Dad had made. It was a big thing to leave a country, move to Australia. She said that it was probably one of the best things that she had ever decided to do with Dad. This big, free, beautiful, open country. What a life, she would say. What a life. Hey, boy. Hey, boy. What a life. Well, thank you, Mother. We love you for it. We'll do forever.
Well done. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Michael. So Nicole and Rebecca, are you coming up to share some thoughts?
Now, to me it's not really memories as a story or stories. For me it's the small things that made her. It's the gumboots at the back door waiting for a plump into them to go and get the water from the tank in the empty milk bottle or quarter bottle. It's the can of carnation milk on the table waiting to make the coffees. It's being waved off out of the driveway as we reversed out every time we visited. It's been growled at to not go into the pantry room or the top room. Well, any room really, but we always try to snatch a look. even though we'd see a minimum twice a week. It was taking all of my siblings and younger cousins to the park because she would give me that look. It took rallying at me numerous times that I hadn't been to visit her at Eulogy and hadn't seen her room. I'm glad that I did in the end, even if it did take me too long. I remember one time I went for a visit and I announced to her I was pregnant with baby 5. She turned to me and said, "You're going to be just like me, Rebecca." I had 9. Are you going to have 9? In my head I said many words to her. I said, "No, man, this will do." The list can go on and on. I'll miss being beside her and having photos taken. And I'm so glad that I always got that spot. I'll miss hearing my name being said by her because no one would ever say it the same. These are just some of the small memories that make the memory large. Thank you, Nan, for giving me so much time with you and for making such a beautiful and large family. Her words, that's all because of me. Your memory and legacy will live forever. We love you.
There are many legacies that our name leaves with us as memories and bring home traditions to carry on. Some things that come to mind, and I apologise, I've already been covered. Leave the box. Tournaments, a card game we love to play whenever we're together, complete with a bowl of chips and Nan's favourite, a nice cold shandy. I remember clearly when I was old enough to join the mayo table with Mum and Dad and Nan and Pop. The next one is macaroni, which has already been mentioned, but it's too good not to say yet. A delicious cheesy pasta delight that Mum tells me was a favourite growing up at 5 Bay Street. As it was in my childhood, and to this day is enjoyed by great grandchildren too. We often fight over the last bowl. Family. Growing up with an endless supply of cousins to play with was always great. At the time it just felt normal as we knew no different, but now I realise how lucky we are to have each other. Christmas. Not many families need to hire a hall for their Christmas lunch. Again, another tradition I hope continues even if you do have to wash up afterwards. And finally enjoying the simple things in life. Nan didn't drive. I can't remember her going on big extravagant holidays. She lived in the same house to us anyway growing up. And she was always happy and content to be at home. Sharing news and stories with a steady flow of visitors, including my family on most Sunday afternoons. We can all learn a lot from our Nan by focusing on a full heart, as she did. Finally, in the words of Wayne, Montana and Baby, thank you Nan and Pop for nurturing and shaping our parents to be the kind, amazing people we are lucky enough to call our mums and dads.
Well done. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Nicole. And thanks again, David and Michael. We're in the front. We've got some photos now of Maria's life.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart, what lies ahead? Will we have rainbows day after day? Here's what my sweetheart said. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? I tell them tenderly, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. Que sera, sera.
Photos always take us back in time, and lots of memories are rekindled. Beautiful. Just like to pray this opening prayer. Almighty God and Father, it is our certain faith that your Son Jesus, who died for us, was raised from the dead, the first fruits of all who have fallen asleep. And granted through this mystery, your servant Maria, who has gone to her rest in Christ, may share in the joy of the resurrection. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Let's tell you to come forward and share with us Psalm 23. Please stand.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. And leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me, in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Thanks, Sally, and thanks, Max. I found through my own experience that when our last remaining parent dies, there is this sense of being alone and being orphaned. And grief does very strange things to us. No one person grieves the same, and we seem to go through a whole range of feelings and emotions. And when a parent has lived a long life, there is in some way an expectation of the inevitable, or a sense of fear of losing the one who has nurtured us and given us life and so much. And when death comes, as we know, there is this shock. Sometimes there is anger, disbelief, raw grief, tears, and a deep sense of loss which brings us emptiness and darkness. And I always say to family, through my own experience of grief and loss, make sure you talk about your parents, especially on this occasion, Maria. And remember those events which have been part of your family, both the good and the not so good events, which have fashioned and shaped your lives as her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren and her great-great-grandchildren. And we Christians are meant to be people of hope, people who focus on those things which take us beyond this place, a belief in a life beyond death, where we are told there is no more suffering, no more heartache, but a way of life in the presence of God. And at times, all of that is very difficult to embrace. And this approach or thinking doesn't take away our grief, but it gives us, I think, direction and seems to steer us through the tough and the rough times. And I get the sense that Maria was a woman of faith, uncomplicated, inherited faith which sustained her throughout her long life. So many of her generation, as has already been said, endured the war, the aftermath, and then that momentous decision to travel to a completely unknown and foreign place, endeavouring to settle down and make a new life. And I'm sure that Maria's faith kept her focused on those things which enabled her to raise you, her family, and to get on with life and all that was necessary. When my own mother was a resident of Umina, and I was the local boy coming out of priest who would celebrate Mass on a monthly basis there at the nursing home, Maria was one of the regulars who gathered to pray, to sing, and to worship in that traditional Catholic way. There was never any pressure for residents to attend those Masses, but I got this sense that Maria was quite happy to express her faith at those Masses in a formal way and stay afterwards for a cuppa which was provided by the staff. Already it's been said, she's very hard of hearing, so anything that I said, she politely would say yes or nod or thank me. But for me it was a privilege to have two women in that small gathering in Mina who were both born in The Hague and made that momentous decision to immigrate after the war, one being Maria and the other being my mother. We give thanks for Maria's life and her Catholic faith. And finally, I am sure that when Maria was called home to God, they would have met as friends, not strangers. Perhaps the words Maria heard whispered to her from her Lord was, "Well done, good and faithful servant, enter now the life I have prepared for you." So Maria, rest in peace.
together with Andrew and all those you have known and loved. Family have asked me to lead you in these prayers of intercession. You'll notice them there in your order of service, and after each of the prayers that I pray, there is that response, Lord, hear our prayer. My dear friends, having listened to God's word and reflected on it, let us now place our prayers before God today. For Maria, who through baptism was given the pledge of eternal life, that she may now be admitted to the company of the saints, Lord, hear us. For those who have known and loved, who have gone before for those we have known and loved, who have gone before us, marked with the sign of faith, Lord, hear us. For those unable to be here with us, who are separated by distance and COVID restrictions, Lord, hear us. For our medical and nursing staff who continue to care for our sick, for our frail, Lord, hear us. And for the sick, the aged and forgotten members of our communities and families, that they will always be cared for with love and compassion, Lord, hear us. And for ourselves, that our belief in the risen Lord and the promises made to us through baptism will be fulfilled, Lord, hear us. And I pray this concluding prayer for these our prayers. God, our shelter and our strength, you listen in love to the cry of your people. Hear the prayers we offer for Maria and all who have loved her in this life. And we make this our prayer as also in our hearts through Christ our Lord. Amen. So we come now to these concluding prayers here in our church. My dear friends, trusting in God, we have prayed together for Maria, and now we come to this last farewell. There is much sadness in parting, but we take comfort in the hope that one day we believe, in faith, we will again enjoy her love and friendship. Although we will disperse in sorrow, the mercy of God will gather us together again in the joy of his kingdom. Therefore, let us console one another in the faith of Jesus. As we know, there are many symbols in our lives, in our families, and in that Christian tradition, in that Catholic tradition, we have a large Easter candle that is burning brightly. We've used water to remind us of Maria's baptism, and in that ancient tradition of the Catholic Church, we incense her coffin. And as the smoke rises, can I just invite you to gently allow God to take all that pain, all that grieving that is part of your life at this time, take at least some of it away, at least for a moment. You notice in your service there is what we call the Song of Farewell. It's actually a prayer. The priest plays the first part and invites you to join in the response, receive her soul and present her to God the Most High. Saints of God, come to Maria's aid, hasten to meet her, angels of the Lord. May Christ who called you, Maria, take you to himself, and may the upon her forever. And I invite you to join the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And I pray this prayer. Into your hands, God of mercies, we commend Maria in the sure and certain hope that together with all who have died in Christ, she will rise with the Lord on the last day. We give you thanks for the blessings which you bestowed upon Maria and Andrew in this life. They are signs to us of your goodness and of our fellowship with the saints in Christ. Merciful Lord, turn towards us and listen to our prayer, and open the gates of paradise to your servant, and help us who remain to comfort one another with assurances of our faith until we all meet in Christ and are with you and with Maria and Andrew forever. Amen. My dear friends, in peace, let us now take Maria to her final resting place, to be once again with Andrew. Maria, may the angels lead you to paradise. May the martyrs come to welcome you and take you to that holy city that we believe in our faith is the new and eternal Jerusalem. Please stand.
All who dwell in dark and sin Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. Oh, I will hold your people.